Hi, my name is Brittany, and this is my channel, Pineapple Grease. Subscribe and stuff. And today we're going to be talking about this webtoon called Grasp. It's this sort of weird horror thriller manhwa thing on Webtoon, and it's super good. Like, it's weird, but it's good. I don't know. Like, it's so confusing, and it's definitely helped a lot by the art. Like, the art is really creepy and very intense, and there's a lot of crazy people, and it's hard to explain the plot because it's very confusing as to what's going on. So basically it's about this like YouTuber, it's about this YouTuber named Sojin, and she starts kind of discovering and finding like body parts of some serial killer or something, and because she shows this on her YouTube, she like goes up in popularity a lot, but also she has some sort of like mental health issues going on, and seems like maybe she's connected to these murders, and you're trying to find out like, oh, is Sojin like part of why this is happening or what's going on. And it's very interesting, and there's a lot of like crazy people that you're like, how did the crazy people tie into it? And yeah, so it's basically just like this very confusing mix of like what's going on, and then also this YouTube girl who she like doesn't really remember her past, and she like seems like she has issues, and she's growing and using YouTube to like feel more alive or whatever. And then also she has like, she starts finding all these like dead people and stuff and being like, and then she gets like targeted, and like, oh gosh, and it's craziness, and then there's all these crazy people around, and you're like, what the heck is going on? And we don't know what's going on for a while, and you just have to unravel the mystery, and it gets more and more intense, and like, oh gosh, wow. Like, I really recommend you read it. There was a part in there where I was like, this is ridiculous, but then it like comes back and saves itself, and you're like, oh, everything makes sense. Like, it's still a little ridiculous. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little ridiculous, but I feel like a lot of like horror-y type things kind of are. So it's whatever, but the art is so good. It's so creepy, and like the story is great, and it's disturbing at times. Like, it's freaks me out a little bit sometimes, but it's really good, and I recommend you read it for this spooky season. This is like my spooky season read of like something creepy that I read for Halloween times. And so yeah, I hope you go read it and then come back and talk to me. It's only like 52 chapters, I want to say, so it's not that long, and you can read them all for free, like I said, but you just have to wait every single day to unlock a chapter, so that's pretty painful to do. I really wanted to just read it all at once because it's really addictive and really good. So go read it and then come back and talk to me, and so bye. And now everyone else here for the spoilers and stuff, let's just get into it. Oh, it was so weird. Well, first of all, I don't know, like the crazy people was the thing that I think threw me off the most for like the longest amount of time, where I was like, really? There's crazy people just like wandering around, and they're obsessed with Sojin for some reason, Sojin's like our main character. I think I said that, whatever. But like, there's all these crazy people that for some reason they're obsessed with Sojin, and you're like, why are the crazy people obsessed with Sojin? And then you're like, oh, there's this huge crazy conspiracy around like the insane asylum or whatever, basically. I mean, mental health facility or research center place. Okay. Like, it just felt a little like, what? Really? And they're stealing children, and it's this huge scary thing. But like the crazy people wandering around with, they somehow have all these guns and weapons and stuff, and you're like, huh? And then they do sort of explain it how everything works with like, oh yeah, they're the old weapons from the Black Hand people, and like that's why they have them and all this stuff. And so like it does make sense, and like they explained it better, so you were like, oh, they're not just random crazy people that are obsessed with Sojin. And it was so interesting how it was like they had been working on that drug to help us like sync your emotions with other people's emotions so that you would like learn emotions, because what's her face, like Dr. Anne or whatever her name was, the Sean Min's mom, she was like trying to make it so that he would learn emotions because he seemed like developmentally like behind with his emotions and stuff, and she wanted to help him so that he could like feel things and be happy and be like a normal person. So she's like all crazy to like help him and do that. So then she has this horrible trial thing with like getting these random crazy children to like be experimented on, so then the drug, like I just think it's interesting that it's like you're gonna be synced with this person so that then you feel the emotions that they feel, and then the idea being that like that would help you develop them on your own because you'd like feel the emotions that this other person felt, and so then you would be like, ah, that's what emotions are supposed to be like. But it's just interesting because they somehow all end up syncing up with Seon Min because of the way that they like just kind of stopped their drugs on them and like stopped the experiment, and then he like kind of came in to where they all were, and so then they like just kind of synced up with him, and that's why they're obsessed with Sojin. Like it felt like, oh, now we have an answer. Like it's a little far-fetched and a little dumb, but it was like we finally have an answer as to why the crazy people are all obsessed with Sojin. It's because Seon Min is obsessed with Sojin, and that makes sense because we know that he's obsessed with her. So now it's like, that's why they're all working for him, and why he has this army of crazy people. Like, why the heck were the crazy people working for him? It didn't make sense before, but now it's like, I see. I think I get it. I understand, finally. It was interesting how, like, it gets into the big thing of, like, it explains the whole concept of, like, grasp and that being what it's called, because it was kind of weird at first where you're like, I guess it's called that because randomly there's like stuff about hands. It did still feel kind of like it's a little bit of a stretch that like, oh, we just decided to make it so that it had a meaning, even though it felt a little bit like you just wanted to like make it mean something, because it was like it started out where there's like hands that they find places and stuff with the people getting murdered and whatever, but then at the end they're like, oh, it's like, you know, people are trying to reach for things that are outside of their grasp or whatever, where like the Seon Min is trying to reach for Sojin and she's not in his grasp, and he's trying to like hold on to her so tight, and his mom is trying to hold on to him so tight, but like really they're like forgetting about and helping him, but like they forget about the things that you have right in front of you. So it's not like you should reach out and try to grab something far, like that you want far away. You should like remember the stuff that you have, or else you neglect what you have, and then like when you try to get that thing in the future, you know, that you're like striving for, and you finally get it, like you might not even be that happy about it, and you might realize that it's not good. Also, it's like they come around to the idea of like, you know, just because you really want something and you know you want that person in your grasp or whatever and you're obsessed with them, it doesn't really mean that like, you know, just because you want them and they're the best thing in your world and like you want whatever this thing for them, that doesn't mean that like that's what they want, or that they like really want your feelings. Like, you know, just because you put all this stuff on them doesn't mean that's like what would be best for them or what they want, you know. And so you're sort of like losing sight of that. And it's just interesting that Seon Min and his mom are like both the same, and then he's like becomes the thing that like he didn't like. And then also it's so sad because his mom is like over there trying to help him find his emotions or whatever, but then he ends up developing the emotions on his own just slowly because of meeting Sojin, and then she like ruins the very thing that was helping him. And so it's like she does misses the fact that like he actually was getting better, like you didn't need to do this, and then she ends up being like happy, and she like makes it look like she did kill herself when he kills her. And so it's like, oh. And then Dr. Kim, who turns out to be basically the real horrible guy, because he's like over here being like, well, I can't let, you know, Dr. Anne or whatever be happy. Like, she got what she wanted. Her son has emotions now. That's no fair. So I have to, like, ruin everything, basically, and not let him be happy. So then, like, Sojin is just, like, constantly the victim of all this, because it's like she did nothing wrong, and she has this lady who, like, does these horrible experiments on her, and she has this guy that's, like, stupidly obsessed with her, and she just gets all in the crossfire. And then Dr. Kim did all this, like, dumb bad stuff, and you're like, why? I don't know. I mean, you know why, but, like, ugh. And then he has his crazy kid that, like, becomes a giant, like, murder machine muscle man, and you're like, what? Oh no. That was a little far-fetched and crazy feeling, but also was, like, kind of made sense, and you're like, I don't know, it was psycho. And, like, figuring it out of, like, what's going on? Why is there this giant, like, monster guy in the tunnel? I don't understand. But, like, the wrap-up makes everything make so much more sense. So it felt like it was such a rewarding wrap-up. Like, I wasn't expecting it. Also, it ended so happy. Like, I was expecting it to be really depressing, but no, everything resolved so nicely. And I have to get to my favorite part of the story, which is Jae-yoon. He survives. It was so wonderful. I knew that he couldn't be dead because they showed up that, like, burned up body, and I was like, I know, I've seen these crime shows. The person on fire is not really him. It's some body double. It's somebody else that burned alive. He's fine. Like, this is not enough evidence. In a story, when you don't see the person for realsies, it's like there's a good chance that they're still alive. You know, you have to see the body. You have to have real proof. If it's all burned up and we can't get, like, clear evidence as to who they are, you know, that doesn't count. They have to be clear proof. We have to know, or they're alive. Probably not always, but this is one of those examples where I was so happy that he was alive. And it was a roller coaster with Jae-yoon, because in the beginning they think like, oh, he seems like kind of a crappy guy. Maybe she has this horrible boyfriend. But then I always like the bad boy character, so I was like, ooh, he seems really bad, but I was like, but I have hope that he's gonna be a good bad boy character. And then he was. I was so sure that he was gonna turn out to be an actually bad boy character, because he seemed like the relationship seemed so bad in the very beginning, and I was like, I don't know about this. I don't know. And then as you keep going, I was like, oh, maybe the relationship will be, like, maybe they're not bad. And then it gets further, and you're like, no, they're so good. Like, they actually are good together. Like, oh my gosh, I was expecting it to not be. It's so funny that even in the story that was, like, I thought was just a pure horror story, I still find the romance part to be like oh my gosh, the romance is so cute. Even though it's like a dumb romance, because it's just like, I don't know, like, they both need each other, which is what makes them work, because she has, like, he's like one of those over the top kind of explosive people, and that's sort of why he's like a bad boy person, because he just like flies off the handle really easily and is like very like all over the place, like ha ha ha, but also like, what did you say, I'm gonna punch you type of person. And so he's kind of like, what the heck, what do you mean you don't have emotions? Like, that's bad. You should live your life and be happy and sad, and like, and if you don't want to, you don't have to either. Like, just do what you want, you know, be happy, do it because you want to. Don't just like go through the motions. And he like doesn't understand that for her, but then also she like gives him purpose in life, because his purpose becomes more about like being a support for her. Like, he sort of like lost all faith in everything, and she meanwhile is like, like, why? What's the point? And, you know, like, she just, like, it's weird. She gives him a reason to live through the fact that she doesn't have a reason to live, almost. Like, it's interesting. And so then, like, together they sort of, like, help each other, and it's so sweet. And I was so happy that he ended up being a good guy and coming and saving her, and, like, and she, like, helps save him. And then I was so worried when we were like, oh no, is he gonna die? But I knew he wouldn't. He had to live. Or it was so depressing. If they died the way that they had it seem like potentially he died, that would have been so depressing and anticlimactic, and I would have been like, what? He's dead? What? How dare you? No. But yeah, the one that's like a criminal guy ends up being the good guy, and then the one that's like the detective, like upstanding citizen guy ends up being the bad evil guy, and I was so happy about it because it's so much more fun. And yeah. Well, and it was also just interesting how everything goes down with like Doctor and becomes like basically super entrenched with the mob and stuff, and it was a very interesting story, but also it was really creepy. Like, I didn't know what was happening, and I also was like sort of sure that what's her face Sojin was gonna end up being like some sort of creepy murderer in her past, but then as you keep going, you're like, it seems like she's not, because she thinks she is, so it like can't be, you know what I mean? Like, it's in those mystery like things where it's like when you think you have an answer, or like when the character thinks they have an answer and it's too early in the story, you're like, you gotta be wrong, because it's never the first thing that, you know, conclusion you come to. It's gotta be something else. But no, it was really creepy, and it was creepy having her live streams and stuff and being like, oh, there's this creepy mental institution, what's going on? And she doesn't have her memories, and it's very sketchy. And then there's all these creepy people that are like attacking, but then sometimes it seems like they're helping her, and there's somebody like chopping people up and putting them together in a hand shape, which makes no sense other than that it's like to facilitate the idea of this whole like grasp thing that they like try to make work, but it doesn't really feel like, I don't know, like the grasp title and them trying to make it this overarching thing, like it was kind of cool, but it also felt a little bit like a stretch, and like they were just trying to make that work because it felt really weird that they like were doing this hand motif. Like, it seemed random. I mean, I guess serial killer people are weird and don't have, they can do what they want in a ritualistic like hand way, but it felt a little weird. But I don't know. And it's interesting that Sun Min is the one that like he kills the boss, but the other guy, Young Jae, is that the big scary crazy guy? He kills like most of the other people. So it's interesting because Sung Min like did actually like kill some of the people, but then he's also trying to protect Sun Jin. Names are hard. But he's trying to protect Sun Jin, and I don't know. The drawings are so cool and so creepy. And I wished I could have taken more pictures. Like, I took like 2 screenshots, and it made me like nervous because it came up with this big like copyright warning thing of like, no, don't do this copyright warning when I took a screenshot from it. And so I was like, oh no, and it made me not want to take any pictures. So I don't have very much that I can actually show you. Like, I guess I'll show you the 2. The one is just like, I have like the title picture, and then I have like one picture of one of the creepy people. But I just want to tell you that the art is really, really good. I mean, if you're this far into it, I'm assumed that you've read it, so because I just spoiled you. But like, the art is really, really good, and I recommend that you like read it for the art, if nothing else. Like, the art makes the creepiness so much more. Like, just talking about the story, you don't really get how creepy it feels, but like the art feels so creepy. And then you have the people with like the red eyes, and there's like this weird stuff about people being like having like obsession and things, and they look all crazy when they're like obsessed with something, and it's just very interesting. And it's also so sweet how Sunjin, like, her finding her memories and her emotions, and then like she's so sad, but then she's like happy and sad, and like they reunite, Young Jae and Sunjin, and everything ends up happy in the end. Like, a ton of people die, but they end up happy, and then you're like, yay, happy ending to this scary horror story. Yeah. I don't know. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. Like, it was a little crazy and a little like, huh? Really? But it was so satisfying. That wrap up was so satisfying, and the story was so exciting, and I just wanted to keep reading it, and I wanted to buy the whole thing and read it all at once, but I held myself back and was like, no, I will not spend money. I will read it for free because there's the option to read for free. Yes. Whenever there's like the ability to read it for free, I'm like, I will watch all your ads. I will read for free. But yeah, to read for free legally, that is. That's the best way. Yeah. But yes, it was really good. I really recommend it, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a nice day, subscribe and stuff. Bye.